if it requires a person to be at a particular place to do the non-material things, not manufacturing or farming, obviously, but the non-material things like bookkeeping, accounting, communications, marketing, all that, if they have to be in a particular place. And most importantly, and this is not so true here, I haven't really seen it here, but in the country as a whole, the traditional job goes away. What is the traditional job? Well, the traditional job is the ones that our parents and grandparents had. Go to work, somebody tells you what to do, you do it, you're good at it. You do it for a lifetime, you get pay, you get benefits, and you get a retirement and you're done. That's the job that's going away. Under the twin forces of technology and more immediately, the fact that now we have 3 billion more people on the global workforce than we ever had before. 3 billion. What's the size of the U.S. workforce? 160 million? So you do the math of that. That's less than 5%. And all of a sudden we've got 700 million Chinese workers. And we've got 700 million or 300 million Indian workers. And they're not the last ones. We've got Indonesia. We have Brazil. We have Russia. And all of Africa yet to have to deal with. 2 of the top 5 countries in the year 2050 are going to be Nigeria and Pakistan. Now, those are both set up to probably be failed countries. There's no way that they're going to be. But they're still people, and they may be able to pull it together. So, what is the American worker who has been so successful up till now going to do? Because these folks are not doing as well as our people can, but they do good enough at a certain kind of a job at 25% the salary. This is the way that, this is not anybody being greedy. This is not anybody being bad. This is the way the system works. It is a competitive market, and now our workers are competing against billions of people before, where they were competing against hundreds of millions, perhaps. And take the 50s and 60s, when kind of the golden age of the American economy, when everybody was simple and was successful and were going and going. What was the world situation then? There was no global economy, because we had bombed our enemies into oblivion. It was their fault. They started it. But there were no factories to make automobiles in Germany or Japan. They couldn't make material goods because their homes were destroyed, their businesses were destroyed, and it took them 2 or 3 or 4 decades. So during that time, we actually were in pretty good shape. We're still not. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, this is the change in the U.S. economy as a result. We were here before. This is the proportion of income earned by the top 10% of American workers. Starting in 1918 through World War I up till the beginning of World War II, this was in the 40 to 50% range. After World War II, because of this tremendous run-up we had up till the 1980s, that dropped to 35%. And now it's back up to 50%. That is, I don't think this was the normal period. I think that was the normal period, because they're the people who benefit from these twin forces. If I can hire people for 25 cents on the dollar and they do a pretty good job, I'm going to make more money. If I can buy machines that replace people and are working 24/7 and don't need health benefits, then I'm going to make more money. And so this is the way that our economic system is developed. And one of the issues is, where does the 90% get their livelihood? Now, the good thing about what we've experienced is, because of productivity, stuff that used to be more expensive is less. Gasoline is more expensive. Because of IKEA, Walmart, Costco, home furnishings, appliances, you can get those much better ones and more of them today than you could for the same dollar. So our standard of living is actually increased, not because we've made any more money, but because the cost of those things have gone down. Because we haven't made any more money for the most part. Average worker salary has stayed just about constant, inflation adjusted. consistent basis. So we were very successful. 1947 and 1979, everybody was making money because we were basically the only industrial society on the planet. Now, it's tipped. 1977 and 1994, this is highly skewed. Top part making a bunch of money, and the bottom part not so, because they don't participate, because they're being competed by these 3 billion workers, and ultimately, their jobs are going to be eliminated by the machine. Is there any way out of this? Is there any way that we will not end up with most of the country impoverished? Yes. And that way is to first take a look at who's doing okay. Managers, professionals, technicians, sales, yeah, maybe not so much, but managers, professionals, and technicians. Who's not doing well? Office administration, production craft, and operators and fabricators. What's the difference between these two kinds of jobs? I will claim that the fundamental difference is that the jobs that are going away are routine, and the jobs that are prospering are non-routine jobs. They require a person to be responsible, to think through a problem. Remember the traditional job, do what you're told, don't make trouble, show up on time, do what the boss says. Now the boss doesn't do it. Because who's doing those routine jobs? Overseas workers, they're good at that, and machines. If I could show a person, a new worker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, here's how you do this, then I can teach a machine how to do that. And ultimately, both in the office with computers and in manufacturing with robotics, we're squeezing people out of the workplace. These people here, because we can do the other more cheaply. There's an article a few months ago that focused on a fuel injection plant in Greenville, South Carolina. Very interesting. Focused on 2 workers. One guy was a community college graduate, but a very highly technical one. He had taken calculus, and he was really good at imagining what his robotic machine was making highly precision parts, and he would have to adjust that machine throughout the day. He was making about $50,000 a year. The other person they focused on was a woman who would take a part off of one thing, put it into something, close the door on it, push the button, and take it out and put it someplace else. She was making $13,000. Why and there's no advance, there's nobody in the plant between those two. And they asked the owner, why don't you just have a machine do that? He said, well, a machine would cost $100,000, I'd depreciate it in 2 years. The person is cheaper than the machine. That was the only reason that she even had the job. A few weeks ago, Inc. magazine ran a story on a new robotic kit called Baxter, where you can buy a kit robot for $22,000, unpack it, and it can do almost any manual manipulation job you can think of. Where will the American worker be if that becomes general and less expensive even, so that the wage competition is not in their favor? The problem, of course, is that where are we in terms of what people's work and what they're doing?